Hi, I'm Gail Brewer, the Manhattan Borough President, and this is Represent NYC on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Today we're going to talk about our office's Storefronters campaign, which is what we're calling our effort to help small businesses survive in Manhattan. My guests today are all fabulous, and they all have a perspective on the topic, which we explored in great detail in our report issued this spring, and it's called Small Business Big Impact. Today we have Hisham Higazi, who's the general manager of a fabulous store called the Halal Guys, and they are great examples of the ladder of entrepreneurship. Kenya Abreu, the president and CEO of the New York Women's Chamber of Commerce. And finally, we have Brian Trevino, senior vice president for community banking at Amalgamated Bank, which has a large customer base among small businesses. Sean, let me start with you, and thank you very much for joining us here today. And we love your restaurant, all of them, but the one particularly on 95th in Amsterdam, because I live right down the street.
Thank you.
We go there often.
Thank you. This is our honor to be here.
It's really fabulous to have you. So tell me the story, how your business began and some of your future plans. And obviously, the whole city's proud of you, maybe the whole world, because of what you've accomplished. But talk a little bit about it.
Thank you. Well, let's begin with the Halal Guys. Halal Guys started back in 1990. You know, when the founder, Muhammad Abu Lanain, Abdul Basit Al-Sayyid, and Ahmed Al-Saka, they decide to open simple hot dog cars at the southwest corner, 53rd and 6th Avenue. You know, they start that cart, and immediately they notice it is a huge demand among Muslim cab driver at the early 90s, you know, requesting, you know, halal meal. At that time wasn't any halal around. And just, you know, to give a little notice, what's halal? Halal is the food permitted under Islamic guideline. It's the procedure we go through to get that meat or chicken to become halal. So they quickly they act and, you know, try to fulfill that gap to be starting service halal food. They change it and start serving chicken over rice, gyro over rice, and falafel for people who are vegetarian. You know, it is you know, a one way to just be spread right over. When you serve a cab driver, you know, the word come out, you know, with no time. You know, cabbies talking to each other, cabbie talking to their customer, and without notice, you know, 2-3 years pass by, and here the line starts. And, you know, the word come out. And around, you know, 1995, you know, the internet came out, and, you know, the word actually is out there. So we find ourselves in, you know, under that demand, so we have to start expanding. So one cart become 2, 3, and 4, and 5. You know, moving forward, and, you know, we have a vision. You know, first, you know, our vision is to, you know, introduce the halal food to New York, and then after that, you know, we really, you know, see it happening. So, you know, we get our mission to, you know, to focus on, you know, the best quality and customer service, and also creating a job, you know, because, you know, when from one car to second to third to fourth, so each car at least got, you know, between 6 to 8, you know, worker. So, you know, you feel like, you know, you contribute to the community. And, you know, I have to be honest and straightforward. If it was not being in New York, wouldn't be the Halal Guys.
Really?
You know, being part of New York and the diversity of New York, that helped a lot, you know. But still, you have to, you know, to have, you know, the vision, and also you have to get that consist. You know, being out there and being in the street is not an, you know, is not an easy thing to do. Is, you know, so you're dealing with, you know, 110-degree weather, you know, 20 below zero, snow, you know.
Yeah, in that line on 53rd Street, they don't care if it's like a blizzard or tornado, you know, or whatever, the line is long.
Even through Hurricane Sandy, we was out there. So it's, you know, when the customer saw this, and, you know, customer coming, driving 2 hours from Long Island or from upstate, they know we there no matter what. So we never disappointed the customer. Yeah. So, you know, quickly, you know, we felt like it's become a part of New York. You know, the line is, you know, non-stop. So we've been approached, many times by, franchise develop, to go ahead and do it. But we don't want to, a jump until we feel we have that foundation, because it's not an easy thing to transfer that concept from street food vendor to brick and mortar store. And we say, okay, let's, we have, thing to do. We begin to make sure, our name is a trademark, national and international. The Halal Guys is being, a federal registered trademark, national in the United States and global wide, So that's number one. We focus on social media to make sure, the word is out there. We know it's very, very, thing to be proud of. On Yelp, review, we rated number 3 in the top, business in New York, and we have over 6,500 review giving us 4.5 star out of 5.
That's fantastic.
Which is, I mean,
well, as somebody who eats your food, and knows how good it is, I'm not surprised. You've got the right food. You've got a wonderful group of employees who are very friendly.
Yes.
There's one guy I love on 95th Street in particular, and it's a good price. And the combination is phenomenal. So.
Yes. So, quickly, when we felt that and we felt like we already have that foundation, we say, let's start, first the store. We open a store on 14th Street and 2nd. The store is doing fantastic. And then, why that particular neighborhood? Because, we have to admit, students have play big role in, to get that word, the Halal Guys out. And so, you have the NYU, you have Borough College, you have so many schools there. And usually the student used to, to take a cab to come to 53rd and 6th. I say, well, let's make it easy on them and just, put a store over there. And also to be part of New York and appreciate what the students have done to us. We established a scholarship called the Halal Guys Scholarship at LaGuardia Community College. Something to, to give back to the community who made the Halal Guys. So we did, the store and 14th and 2nd, and then the second one right after, which is, 95 and Amsterdam. Both stores are doing,
They're
fantastic.
always packed. They're packed all the time.
Doing fantastic. So, it seemed to be quickly, but this, start 1990 and right, almost 25 years. And doing this 25 years, challenging was out there, being in the street, dealing with, all different kind of people, different kind of weather. And since you decide you have to be there for our customer, so no matter what, you get to be there. So it was not an easy job to do this, and also in the same time, try to focus on your vision. Our vision right now, since we started a year ago, a franchise program, and the first official word came a New York Times article in June 2014.
I remember that.
Yes, and we go in franchise. I have to be very, very proud of the Halal Guys and what's accomplished. Within less than 1 year in the franchise program, we already have over 200 stores in development.
I know, it's fabulous. Before I get to that, let me just talk a little bit to Kenya about the chamber, the women's chamber, and all the challenges that your amazing women businesses face and how you figure out how to deal with them and support them.
Well, Gail, as you know, I've been a big advocate of small business, especially women-owned businesses. And the challenge, one of the big challenges that our women entrepreneurs are facing right now, and I would say not just women entrepreneurs, but just small businesses in general, especially our immigrant community, is the situation with the commercial spaces. We see a lot of them closing. And the reason for that is because we have a lot of landlords out there that are not friendly to small businesses. And before, we have landlords that live in the community, and they're understood, and they had a relationship with the community. And what we're seeing right now is landlords not wanting to rent to our small businesses and just holding on to the spaces, for instance, to be able to rent to bigger stores. We're losing a lot of mom and pop stores here in New York City. That's one of the big challenges. And once their lease expires, it has become very difficult for them to retain their commercial space because the landlords don't want to rent to them. They rather rent to a bank, to a major franchise like Dwayne Reed's, like CVS, Starbucks. We're seeing a lot of that. So that's one of the big challenges. We just lost on 168 a whole block of small businesses. We lost 7 of them. Businesses. We had a restaurant that had been there for 30 years. And he had to close down. So that's one of the major challenges that we have because there is no protection in reality for our small business owners, for the renters. Like we have protection for residents, but there's no protection for our small businesses. We're losing a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's what our report is about. We're going to try to work with the city council to come up with something that would provide a mediator, not something specifically like the bill that's pending since 1985.
Yes.
But it's something that would work. So we're working with the chair of the Small Business Committee. And at the same time, we've been holding what I call storefronter meetings, you know, with small businesses and community boards and residents and people working like you at chambers and bids to say, what is the way we can go about this? And we're coming up with some ideas and maybe some permitting possibilities. And then here on the Upper West Side, we passed a zoning law, which would fit in for halal guys for sure, but stating that on Amsterdam and Columbus, a store can only be a certain size, so that you cannot end up with, you know, the entire block. So we're working on all fronts, but this is one of the hardest questions, and the frustrating part is there's no easy answer. So we're going to work until we get an answer. We want many more halal guys and many more small women-owned and minority and immigrant-owned and people who are going from the you know, community-based, and just like halal guys.
Yeah.
So, but thank you, because you have been struggling with this from day one.
Yes, and we thank you, Gail, because it's been difficult. You mentioned the Small Business Survivor Act, which we have been, you know, worked with a group of other advocates, and it's been a tremendous challenge. And I said, you know, to them also, we got to look at other options, like your option, what you're presenting, because we definitely need something.
We do. We can't just be talking.
Yes,
got to do.
We really do. And I said it will be a sad day in the city of New York when we lose our small businesses, because that is New York City. I mean, tourists come here, and I'm sorry, no offense to the CVS and the Dwayne Reeds, but they definitely don't come here for that. They come here for the halal guys. They come here for, you know, the little, you know, a Latino restaurant, the Asian restaurants, all these different, you know, great places that we offer here in New York City. That's what they come here for, and we can't lose that. We definitely can't.
Brian, thank you for all the work that Amalgamated does. So talk a little bit, because you really do see what the challenges are for small business.
Yeah, I think you know, one of the biggest challenges is just getting businesses to the next level. So you have a lot of small businesses with under 5 employees, and then, you know, how do they grow? How do they help them grow? And what are the right resources to help them grow? So you know, getting them to mid-size, getting to the next level, and we've been doing a lot of work to help businesses in underserved communities get there. You know, it's baked into our mission that we've always provided affordable and accessible banking.
Yep.
And so we've been doing a lot of work around capacity building and kind of developing, you know, programs for small businesses in the underserved communities.
Do you get any help from government? Are there any kind of seed programs for government, or any way in which government, SBA or the local SBS, or, you know, anything that helps you help them?
We have been providing referrals to services, to additional services. We're doing a pilot program right now with the Next Street, which is actually building a capacity building program. So we're kind of bringing our capacity program in-house. But for additional services, like additional resources to lending, startup, educational services, we do refer to, you know, New York City Department of Small Business, the SBA, and things like that. So,
Kenny, the other thing, of course, is to have small businesses try to get procurement opportunities with government. And I know you and I have talked about this. Is that something that is possible? And because obviously you can have the best restaurant in the world, but you can have customers, but you still need to have, you know, a rent that's reasonable. But first of all, you have to have customers. So one of the ways to do that is to have some procurement opportunities.
Well, Gail, as we were, you know, talking before, we still have a lot of challenges there too. There's a lot of issues with the MWB program, which is the certification of women and minority businesses, so they can procure contracts with the government. And there's, as you know, billions of dollars in contracts with the government, but our businesses, our small businesses, are still not getting them. We're getting them certified, and then years go by, and they're still not getting those contracts. We really have to look at that, and I urge the government, I urge the City Hall, and also the government to really look at the programs and look at designing a program that really allows our small businesses to get in there, because right now they're not.
Yeah. Now, when you grew halal, you obviously had a good plan and you had vision and so on.
Yes.
It must be different in New York than Chicago or LA in terms of growing the business. Is government helpful? Are there things that government should be doing? I mean, you have a great vision, and that helps.
Yes, but what we face, and actually I could say what the franchisee have facing, it's just first, as halal guys, we have to face registers, to be able to sell franchisee, and then it come to the point, the same thing. It's the franchisee have to look for a specific space and size, and also reasonable rent, so to be able to work and make a profit. So that's what the franchisee have facing. So but in the beginning, as a halal guys, one of the challenge we did face, since it was all the respect, since as a Muslim we don't deal with interest.
Right.
So that was for us as a halal guys was sort of a challenge.
Oh my goodness.
To do that expansion, and you have to really work hard and come with that capital to just expand. So it was more a challenge than just being out there.
You need a movie contract or something. You really do. You're amazing. You just need to be something even more extraordinary than what we're talking about today, because everything you talk about is more interesting. Don't you agree? I mean, it's so many challenges. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. So, Brian, the businesses come to you. I have to say, you probably hear more about what they need than any of us, even though Kenya's there listening to the people in the community. So are you able to help most of them, or some of them just have challenges that are not possible to be addressed?
That's a great question. I think what happens when businesses come to the bank, they don't really understand or have the knowledge of how they need to be prepared when they come to the bank.
Unless they've been to Kenya first.
Yeah, so that's an ideal situation, is when you have a party that refers them to you and they've already given them some education of what they need. So a lot of times when people come for traditional financing, they don't have detailed financial statements, they don't have a business plan, and so we kind of have to step back with them and say, well, this is what you really need to do over the next year or two, which I think is where the capacity program is really going to help business really. And I like what you mentioned is having a vision, having a plan, and that's so important, because as a small business owner, you're in the weeds of your business every single day. So it's good to kind of step back and see where you want to take your business and plan for it. And then, there's other sources of financing in the beginning of a startup. And then when you're ready for traditional financing, is when you come to a bank, and it's a lot easier to get a loan. So that's kind of where we are now, is looking at the smaller businesses that are not necessarily startups, but have been in business for 1 or 2 years, and they're working their way up to the traditional financing.
Because I know for a business, the 1 or 2 years is the key. Can you get through that? And Kenan, you must, that's an interesting comment, that if they've been to you first, they'll be able to get the loan, or at least have all the paperwork. So do you work with them at that initial stage? Do you see what Brian is stating, that sometimes they don't have the vision or don't have the plan, and then you try to help them? Because rent is always going to be a problem, but leaving the rent issue aside.
Yes, of course. That's one of the things that the New York Women Chamber of Commerce does. We have the Women and Minority Business Center, and we also have the Micro Enterprise Institute that provides resources to not only to our women, that's the majority of our customer, but also to men as well. And yes, they come in a lot of time without the necessary documentation, not prepare really to apply for capital, because you got to remember, a lot of the small businesses, especially the ones that are immigrant-owned, they open their business, they know their craft, they know their trade. They know their trade well, but they have not gone to, most of the time, to any type of training about how to open a business, how to start a business, how to manage a business, and all of that. And my hat's off to them, because I look at them and I said, my goodness, look at this woman, look at this man who's able to do this without very little training or guidance. But they do need that training and they do need that guidance if they want to take their business to the next level. And that's what we do. We help them with their business plan. We help them prepare their financials. We help them get insurance if they don't have it also, because that's one of the things that happen. We want to make sure that they're doing business the right way so they can stay in business, and it's one of the issues that we find.
So with Halal Guys, I assume that when you work with a franchisee, then you look at some of these qualifications. Has the person got training? Have they got,
Yes,
et cetera? So it's the same concept.
Exactly. And one of the, our responsibility as a franchisor, we do have a program, and to make sure that franchisee who's willing and interested to invest and go with the Halal Guys, we have a program to make sure he have the experience in operation restaurants, and also we build up a training program. We bring every franchisee to New York. We have them for 5 weeks training in our warehouse, in the stores. So we get to make sure that franchisee being set to success. That's what we do. Yes.
Brian, what do the other banks have as? I don't think they have as wonderful support for small business, but in general, when you go to conferences and so on, do you think that there is a focus on the smaller businesses in New York? Because we always know that most of the jobs start with the smaller businesses. And also 99% of businesses in New York, or maybe in the 90s anyway, are small. We always hear about Chase Manhattan and so on. But most of the businesses in New York are small. And so we always complain, those of us in policy, how come the larger businesses, like the banks, get the tax breaks, and then the smaller businesses don't? So in your case, do the banking industry in general, I know you're very unique and very special, and Amalgamated really is. No, you are. But do you think that there is increasingly perhaps a focus on the small business, or it's not something that comes up a lot?
No, there definitely is an increase in small business lending, especially now that we're post-recession. I think banks have been very careful to kind of get back into that space because small businesses were hurt. One point I kind of wanted to bring up earlier is not only just planning and prep for your business, but it's also so important that from your own personal financial situation that you've also built that up, because that's what banks look at. And oftentimes for small businesses, they're commingling their own funds with the business. So it's just as important to remember to understand credit scoring and all your personal financial and savings and all that, and keep all that up to date. And banks are starting to get back into it a little bit more. They're very cautious. I think there's also some disruptors and players of online lending and stuff like that people need to be very careful for, because you can see interest rates north of 30%.
Oh my goodness.
So you have to do your homework on that. But yeah, banks are definitely, they want to lend, and I think that we're getting back into lending to small business again, which is great.
So Kenny, what I always hear about from small business, lots of issues, rent and capital. Those are the two big issues. And do you find that this capital issue is being addressed? We know about the rent problems, but do you?
It's being addressed to a certain point, Gail. We see a lot more happening. We see a lot of other options coming about. We have the banks, we have Acción, we have crowdfunding, which is now a big thing also. We have something called Kiva. We have all these things coming about, but we also see what you mentioned, which is this trend also online of people applying for loans of entities that call themselves lenders and call these fundings loan when they're not really. Yeah, but they're not even really loans, because they don't report to the credit bureau and all of these things. But people are desperate. Because they're desperate, they're going to go to that entity where they're going to get a response, and they're going to get a response faster. So that's always, and those are the two biggies, the rent and the capital. And we still see a lot of challenges there because a lot of our small business owners are not ready. They're not loan ready, a lot of them. So they're still being victims of loan sharks. And we are working with them. I was mentioning that before. We had a partnership with Margaret Bank on terms of financial literacy, and we want to see that again coming back because they do need that. They do need to understand how important the credit score is, and to be able to move away from loan sharks into borrowing from legal entities.
Right. So the social media can be good and can be bad.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
always like
exactly.
everything else.
Exactly.
It's got its pluses and minuses.
Yes.
Brian, do you think that we need to do more education then on this loan situation and how to get capital the right way?
I do. I think you know, you can get capital from multiple sources, and I think when you're starting a business, you're doing everything you can to run that business and make it work. And sometimes, you know, there is risk in that, and then you get over that. But I think you need to have discipline through that stage to understand like where you're trying to get to. And that way you can go back into traditional financing and you can get cheaper rates and you can work with, you know, your resources to get there.
Yep.
So.
We're running out of time, which is unfortunate. It goes so quickly. So I want to thank my guests for being here today. And if you'd like more information or a copy of our report, Small Business, Big Impact, please visit the website on the screen. You can also contact me using the information on the screen. I'm Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. Thank you for watching Represent NYC on Manhattan Neighborhood Network.